Hello and welcome back to the Football Uncovered channel, where we look into players, managers and teams and their highs and lows and give you the facts. Today's topic is one many English fans will know of, and it's the death of Bury FC and their revival. Bury FC was formed on the 24th of April, 1885 after two local church teams agreed they wanted to play professionally. Ahead of the 1885 to 1886 season, the team played their first game against Wigan, which they won 4-3. They were the founders of the Lancashire League in 1889, where they finished runners-up in the inaugural season, and then went on to win the championship for the next two seasons. In 1891, they also won the Lancashire Cup for the first time and would go on to win another 10 times, most recently in a 4-2 win over Fleetwood Town in 2017. In 1894, the club was elected to the Football League. In their first season, they would win the second division title, and go on to beat the first division bottom club Liverpool to gain promotion to the top tier. Bury would stay in the top flight of English football for 17 seasons until they were relegated in the 1911 to 1912 season. During the 17 seasons though, Bury would find success in the form of the FA Cup, winning it in 1900 and 1903. Bury was impressive when it came to the FA Cup victories, especially in the 1903 win. Bury had not conceded a single goal en route to the final against Derby County, and would go on to win 6-0, which was an FA Cup record for most goals inside a final until 2019, when Manchester City would equal the record against Watford. The team then appointed Archie Montgomery, who was their goalkeeper, and managed them for 8 years, but was let go due to lack of income because of the war. Bury would return to the top flight in 1924 and enjoy their last 5 seasons in the top flight, as it would be the last time they would be there. Bury would often come close to being top flight material once more, but a third was the best they would muster. After a series of mid-table performances and a number of relegations, Bury would find themselves in the 4th tier for the first time in 1971. They did bounce back though in 1974 and spent the next 6 seasons in the 3rd tier, but would once again find themselves in the 4th tier. So we know a little about their history. Let's take a jump in time to the 2000s. Well, the start of the new 2001 to 2002 season was already foreshadowing what was to come for the club, as they almost went into administration due to the collapse of ITV Digital, which almost caused them to fold. However, a supporters fund managed to keep the club afloat and was actually recognized by UEFA, awarding the club press officer Gordon Sorfleet with their Best Supporter Award. Bury were relegated that season to Division 3. However, Bury did have something to celebrate, as in May of 2005 they became the first club, and still the only club, to score 1,000 goals in each of the top 4 tiers of English football. Yet a year later they were expelled from the 2006 to 2007 FA Cup, after fielding an ineligible player, and only narrowly avoided relegation that year. However, things would turn around in the 2008 to 2009 season with a newly appointed boss, Alan Knill, as he would lead them to a 4th place finish, only missing out on automatic promotion by 1 goal. They would go on to lose the playoff semi-final in penalties against Shrewsbury Town. Yet they were not ready to give up, and in the 2010 to 2011 season, their manager left them, leaving the youth manager Richie Barker to take over and see them out to a 2nd place finish, securing their promotion to League One football. Finally, things were looking up for them, but that would come crashing down as quickly as it was built up. In December of 2012, Bury were placed under a transfer embargo for falling into financial difficulty. They ended up being relegated at the end of the season, but a £1.5 million investment in May of 2013 helped them get out of that debt. Barry would set a club record in the 2014 to 2015 season by getting 85 points, the most they've had in a season, and earned them promotion back up to League One football. They would spend the next 3 seasons in League One before finishing rock bottom in the 2017 to 2018 season, and would return to League Two for the second time in 5 seasons. They would return just a season later after former Barry player Ryan Lowe was hired. Then, in December 2019, the club was bought for £1 by Steve Dale, and he paid off an outstanding tax order. The problem seemed to stop for now, until April of the same year, after players and staff alike had not been paid on time. The former head coach Chris Bass then issued a winding-up petition, basically saying for the club to go into liquidation. The petition was delayed to the end of the season, but upwards of £250,000 was still yet to be paid. Dale would state that the club was in a much worse place than he first thought, with over £1.5 million worth of wages still yet to be paid, so he put the club up on the open market. Meanwhile, preparation for the new season was underway, but with the loss of first-team manager Ryan Lowe and several first-team players, things did not look bright. On July 25th, the EFL wanted proof of the club's financial viability. Otherwise, they would be expelled from the EFL. They couldn't provide it, so their first 5 games were suspended as a result. On August 8th, Barry was given 14 days to provide a plan to pay off debt, so Dale would state he was open to selling the club when staff practically begged him to accept offers for the club. However, Dale would go on to reject a bid that would have saved the club, believing he could get a better deal. By this time, Barry had already been expelled from the Carabao Cup, and had the EFL putting plans in place for the exit of the club. Both the Barry North MP and the Mayor of Greater Manchester wrote to the EFL chair asking for extensions on the club's expulsion. They were granted 48 hours to avoid this fate. 4 parties were then revealed to take over, and on the 23rd of August, a deal was set to be made with analytics company C&N Sporting Risk. Barry was then given until the 27th of August to complete this deal and save the club. However, shortly before this deadline, C&N Sporting Risk pulled out of the deal, stating they were unable to proceed. They were set to be the first team since Maidstone in 1992 to drop out of the EFL. At this time, they had missed 6 league games, been kicked out of the Carabao Cup, and had the club hanging in the balance. So when the deadline passed, there were no more second chances, and their EFL membership was withdrawn. It later emerged that a bid from a Brazilian-backed buyer had been rejected. The club had died, and its long history hadn't really been seen before on such a massive scale, with fans of the club and outside of the club shocked to see the club just disappear. The EFL would state that a lack of owner funding was the demise of the club, and along with it, Barry was being investigated for fraud. A meeting was then held to admit Barry into League Two, but they were rejected, suggesting they apply for a place in the National League for the 2020-2021 season. Everton chairman Bill Kenwright attempted to give Barry £1 million, but it was rejected by the EFL due to a conflict of interest. While all of this was happening, a Phoenix club was being formed that would be fan-owned, but Steve Dale would continue to fight the administration in the hope of returning to the Football League. On 31st January 2020, the club was in danger of liquidation as Dale had failed to pay any money to creditors. He had to pay at least $2 million now by the 11th of February. Otherwise, the CVA would be ended, and debts of £5 million would have to be paid immediately. 12 months after the expulsion from the EFL, it was stated that the club does exist, just with no players, no league to play in, and no employees. The club was still looking at liquidation, and it was only a matter of time. Dale would brand the fan-owned club of Bury AFC as a fake, which would anger fans. Then, on the 27th of November, Dale would finally put the club up for administration, but by this time, the club would have about £15 million worth of debts. Although Bury was still undergoing administration in the background, the Phoenix club Bury AFC was applying for the 10th tier of English football, which they were approved for. However, COVID-19 struck, putting a halt to Bury AFC's revival for now. In the 2020-2021 season of the Northwest Counties Football League, they would secure promotion as champions, then finishing the following season in 4th with 83 points, just 2 off their counterparts' record. Then, in June of 2023, the club announced after a long-winded process, the name Bury Football Club could be used in competitions for the first time since 2019, therefore merging the two clubs into the revival of Bury FC. The club is currently fighting for promotion up to the 8th tier of English football, looking to add more history to the prestigious club. Now, if you liked that video, why not check out some others? And why not leave a like and comment on what other players, teams and clubs you'd be interested in seeing? So until then, goodbye.